Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Face Mask Podcast. It's been a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I heard that open.
It's
good to be back.
You had some technical, it wasn't even difficulties, it was technical meltdown over there, right?
Yeah, computer things, man. But we're back.
We're all fixed up.
Ready to give you all this content. And so much stuff has happened.
Yeah.
It feels like the draft just kind of passed us by, and we did due to these technical issues, we haven't even gotten to really speculate on a lot of the stuff that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, some storylines have absolutely unfolded since the draft on top of what we haven't covered post-draft. So why don't we go ahead and just get started? You wanted to talk about, so there's a hot button issue that I constantly see in the Twitterverse these days, and it's about Lamar Jackson. And there's a narrative that's going around right now where it's like, oh, he can't throw the ball, he's a running back. Even though he led the league in passing touchdowns in 2019.
I don't think it's that bad. I don't think people are calling him a running back.
It's not great.
But people aren't looking at him as like his glowing. He's not a glowing quarterback prospect, but as a passer by any means in the public eye.
Yeah, and I think there's an issue with that. But I also think he's going to have a chance to prove. He's going to have a much better chance than he has to this point in his career to prove that narrative wrong. Because the Ravens added some pass catchers in the draft.
Yeah, they definitely have the most talented depth chart.
For Lamar's tenure so far as the starter, there's no doubt.
You got Rashad Bateman. You got Tylan Wallace.
Added to incumbents, Mark Andrews, who is a top 5 tight end by most metrics, and Hollywood Brown has been pretty up and down to this point in his career as far as a first-round pick expectation goes.
Sammy Watkins still there.
Sammy Watkins is now in the mix. They brought him on board.
Yep. Sticking around.
Right. And then, obviously it's built around the foundation, which is the dynamic rushing attack, which is led by Lamar. But Lamar now more than ever has a chance to, again, prove the naysayers wrong when it comes to throwing the football, because these weapons are much better than what he's had to this point. You mentioned Bateman. First round pick out of Minnesota. He was listed in college as being 6'2". It came out in the pre-draft process that he's actually 6 feet tall. So he's not huge, but that's okay. Being 6 foot, that's not by any means, that's not an issue as far as wide receivers go. He has sub 440 speed, so he's fast. He's a good route runner. He's good in and out of his breaks. I think he's a fine addition. He should start right away on the outside. Look at the rest of the depth chart. He should start pretty much right away, barring something like totally unforeseen. But he has the skill set that naturally translates to the position. Will he pop off right away? I don't know. He could. There's going to be a lot of weeks where he's third in the pecking order as far as targets go. Could he supplant Brown? And some weeks Andrews? Unlikely, like most weeks as a rookie, but we're seeing more success directly translate to the NFL at the wide receiver position right away, just because there's more and more guys coming into the league that are polished route runners, and Bateman fits that description. So his chances are good. You're talking about an all-pro tight end in Mark Andrews and a burner in Hollywood Brown, but he's going to have his opportunity. And I don't think him ending up with Lamar as his quarterback is I don't think that's going to be an issue for his career. I think the narrative about Lamar as a passer is overblown, and I think he and Bateman, if they develop a little bit of chemistry, it could be slow out of the gate. It usually is with new quarterback wide receiver pairings, but you give them some opportunity to gel and to mesh and get to learn how to play with each other. Bateman has the skills to make it in the NFL. So it's a positive development for Lamar.
My problem with this whole situation, and let me just preface this with, I agree with you 100% with everything you just said. I know that's boring to the listeners.
Oh, boo.
I agree with Nick.
Boo.
Whatever. My problem with this whole situation that's set out before us with Lamar Jackson is Greg Roman his offensive coordinator. It's not even
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson. Because let me just show you. Since 2011, here are his team pass attempts and where they rank in the NFL, whenever Greg Roman is the offensive coordinator.
Okay.
2011, ranked 31st. It was with the Bills, Tyrod Taylor. 2012, 31st. 2013, 32nd. 2014, 29th. 2015, 31st. 2019 with Lamar Jackson, 32nd. 2020 with Lamar Jackson, 32nd. It's not whether or not Lamar Jackson is going to grow as a passer. I think this whole offensive scheme that they've built, well, it does lend itself to some of Lamar Jackson's strengths and his strengths as an NFL player, as a distributor of potential fantasy points, as you know what we're looking for from a quarterback to give the ancillary players in the offense value. I don't think this is the offensive scheme to do so. I think in the future, if he gets with a different offensive coordinator, something more along the lines of a Cliff Kingsbury, we can see more of a Kyler Murray early half of 2020 outlook for Lamar Jackson and his pass catching group. I just don't see that in 2021 with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator. And I think they're going to continue to have success. They're going to continue to win games because it's a solid organization, and he'll continue to be the offensive coordinator. And I don't see a scenario in which the wheels fall off, Greg Roman gets booted, and Lamar Jackson is gifted with a freer offensive coordinator.
Well, yeah, to that point, I mean, Greg Roman plays well as far as his philosophy goes with the strengths of the Ravens offense right now, which is their dynamic run game. Obviously, you know, to your point that his offensive outputs in the passing game year over year are at the bottom of the league. I mean, who were his quarterbacks, right? You said Tyrod Taylor, who we've profiled a bit here.
The past 2 years, it was Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, who is still coming in. Yeah, I mean, young quarterback, unpolished as a passer, there's no doubt. But, I mean, again, in 2019, with Greg Roman, Lamar led the league in passing scores.
Based off of insane red zone efficiency.
Yeah, there was insane efficiency.
In another video on our channel. And in that season, even though he led the league in a lot of passing categories, it was mostly based off of efficiency because he still ranked 32nd in pass attempts rank. So like he still wasn't given he still was given the worst opportunity.
Right, the smallest opportunity.
By his offense, by his coaching scheme.
Sure.
Of any quarterback in the NFL.
Well,
if it wasn't for him being so fantastic with his legs,
right,
we'd be talking really differently about this guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, that guy can run for 1,000 yards at the quarterback position. So that's a huge X factor that no other team can really boast. I think they're not going to get away from what is most successful, right? This offense is still going to run the ball for 2,500 rushing yards on the season. Like they're going to play to their own strengths, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if they open the playbook up a little bit more and their draft indicates that they're going to try. At the very least, they're going to give it a shot, right? Adding Bateman,
I hope they
adding Tylan Wallace. You know what you have in Mark Andrews. You know what you have in Marquise Brown. So by all accounts, call it what you will, Sammy Watkins isn't maybe the most exciting addition in the offseason, but he's better than the ghost of Willie Snead. So it's a slight upgrade, right? It's at least a slight upgrade. So this passing group, again, and we've already made this point, is deeper and better than Lamar has ever had. Oh, I'm not worried.
From a fantasy perspective, I don't want any of these guys, really. I'm almost looking at, like, Man, I got a lot of Mark Andrews shares in dynasty situations, and I'm looking at it like I can't wait until Greg Roman leaves.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be, for me, as big of a concern, just because I think, regardless of Roman, I think the organization proved in the draft that they want to make more of an effort, more of a point of throwing the ball. Are they going to make an astronomical jump this year? Top 10 in the league as far as passing numbers, every advanced passing metric. I mean, let's not put the cart before the horse. We haven't seen this offense go yet, and we're talking about 2 rookies. So, but I am a believer in Bateman. Tylan Wallace was a 4th-round pick, so the draft capital's not necessarily in his favor, but comes from a big program at Oklahoma State. It scored a lot of points. Their bread and butter is offense in the Big 12. So he should contribute, or he could contribute.
I do want to also make the correlation that Sammy Watkins was Greg Roman's number 1 wide receiver from 2011 through 2014 and 15.
They're reuniting.
He was the number 1 wide receiver in Buffalo, and they had Robert Woods, and they had Logan Thomas, and they had pieces.
Well, Thomas wasn't anything,
They weren't anything. He
wasn't anything close to what he was last year.
Right. But they still ranked 32nd, 31st, 29th as the best passing attempts ranked team.
Well,
in the
how
NFL
old was Robert? I mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but Robert Woods was a younger player. It's not crazy to see wide receivers actually get better later in their career. It's not the easiest transition. It's not the easiest position to transition to. Some guys do it right away, but not everybody.
I wasn't really. What I was saying was
the weapons.
Look at how they were utilized in those offenses. They had really it was a traditional NFL offense. They had 1 X guy, 1 speed guy in Marquise Goodwin, and they had Robert Woods as a PPR guy. Robert Woods was valuable about half of the time.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins was valuable about 2/3 of the time, and Marquise Goodwin was valuable, for 2 to 3 games of the season.
Right.
So Marquise Goodwin is Holiday Brown in this situation.
Well, he's better. Hollywood's better than
yes, he is. But Rashad Bateman is Sammy Watkins in this situation.
I would take that.
And the other rookie there, I'm blanking on his name. Wallace,
Mark Andrews is more of the PPR guy in this offense.
Yeah. I would say that.
Wallace is a dart throw at this point. We'll see.
Wallace is going to kind of fight for scraps with Miles Boykin and Devin Duvernay. Because I think
Probably.
They did just get drafted. They're young guys, even though they're kind of forgotten in this. Marlon Brown too. They're kind of forgotten in this wide receiver room.
Miles Boykin is I think he's close to the end of his opportunity, at least with Baltimore.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who sticks with this group with all the talent that they did bring in the offseason through the draft and through free agency. But yeah, I'm still not. I like Rashad Bateman long term for a redraft. If you're looking for this year, I'm kind of out on all Ravens pass catchers just for me, with the exception of Mark Andrews, just because it is the tight end position.
Yeah, they're a tough sell in redraft, but I will say I like Marquise Brown in best ball. I like receivers. Yeah, they may only be valuable 5-6 games a year, but for those 5-6 games, they catch a couple bombs and both go for touchdowns. That's the type of week winning upside that I'm looking for in the middle rounds, like that 7th, 8th round area where Brown typically goes. I have no problem with that. You can get Bateman a few rounds later if you really want to. Obviously, he comes with a little bit of built-in risk as a rookie in a low volume passing offense, but I do think he has the skills to translate. So if you want to take a flyer on a guy like that when you're talking 10th, 11th round for a receiver, that's fine. Andrews is who he is. He should be in that top 5-6 conversation as far as tight end scoring at the end of the season. I think this passing offense will be better.
I think
worthy
Andrews
enough.
might look more like 6'7".
It's certainly possible. He could have a couple of targets seeded away from Bateman, and then just an overall just a low volume passing offense. But he also had some drop issues last year, so if he's able to correct that, then you could see comparable numbers to what he had. Maybe 75% or so of what he did in 2019.
Yeah, but Pitts is obviously going to be tight end 1, right? And then Kelsey.
He's tight. Yeah, Pitts is tight end 1 for the rest of forever.
I'm kidding. All right.
But I do think this offense will be better, and at least in best ball, the wide receivers are worth a look, no doubt.